Let me just say, after Vera distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Woo! Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, powered up by the Belly Up Sports Network of podcasts. Sit back and enjoy as we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of sports, everything from the Detroit Lions to the state of Michigan sports to around the country and around the world. So what are you waiting for? Let's get out there and let's watch the latest edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And good evening, everybody. Indeed, welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe to that, by the way, and also powered up by the Belly Up Network of podcasts. Great to be with you Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And who would have thought our Detroit Lions are going into Thanksgiving on a 3-game winning streak? Yours truly, Captain Lou, here with you tonight again, and we're joined tonight again, a friend of the show, Chase Thornton's going to join us, our Buffalo Bills insider, and we're going to talk a little fantasy sports with a twist of Detroit and Buffalo. As he's a Packer fan, but he's also a Buffalo Bill writer, so we get to go back and forth a little bit. Chase, how are you, my friend?
Doing all right. How you been? How you been, Captain Lou?
Well, I tell you what, I am doing great. It's been 5 years since I can enjoy a 3-game winning streak. So
better than
I got to tell you,
weeks.
I'm just tickled as punch. I'm pleased as punch, man.
Heck yeah. No, they've looked good lately. They've looked good ever since they took over that Packer game. They haven't let down.
And I didn't get to watch the Lions game live because I was traveling back and forth from Upper Michigan, but I listened to it. And I got to tell you, that's the most excited I've been listening to a Lions game in years, because the way they dominated the Giants. I would like to think that it was all them, and I think it was, or a lot of it anyways. Aiden Hutchinson playing well, but how much do you think it was that the Giants have been playing with smoke and mirrors with this record that they've got so far?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are a good team. Giants are a good team, or they wouldn't have the record that they have right now. I'll get that out of the way right now. But, I mean, we've seen the Packers struggle with no wide receivers. The Giants might have the only more screwed up wide receiver situation in the entire league than Green Bay does. I mean, again, I've been saying this about the Tampa Bay offensive line, but it seems like every 8 seconds, another wide receiver for the Giants goes down for some reason. Yeah. Then they traded out Tony, and I mean, they're basically down to Darius Slayton and a bunch of guys that we literally have never heard of. Kenny Golladay came back, but Kenny Golladay, I don't think even plays for the Giants. I mean, he's employed by them, but I don't necessarily think he plays for them anymore.
Chase, that's the best thing Detroit could have done, was let him walk. He was a cancer when he was here. And I had a couple of New York friends on that were excited when they signed it to him. I said, hey, I'm helping pay for his bus ticket out of town, man. And now the Giants know what I'm talking about.
Isn't that something? Nobody batted an eye when he signed that contract in New York. Everybody's like, oh, heck yeah, man, this is a good fit for them. And everybody squawked and hollered about Christian Kirk signing his contract down in Jacksonville. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather have what Christian Kirk is doing and playing for my team, and actually, like I said, for the team. But I think the Detroit's got a good offense. We know they do, but they shut down a pretty decent rushing attack the other day too. So Daniel Jones is a capable quarterback. I'm actually a big Daniel Jones fan, but I don't think it's because the Giants shot themselves in the foot or the Giants aren't any good. I think Detroit has talent on that team, and we've seen that all year. We've known that all year, that they have talent. They just don't have necessarily enough right now to be a Minnesota or
Well, they're learning how to win, and that's something they haven't been able to do in the last couple of coaches. So hopefully it can spread, Now, on your end of the ledger, what a crazy week with the snow. And, it's being able to get to Detroit, first of all, Saturday,
Right.
and playing a game against Cleveland, and it's people. I don't think enough credit is given to the team, the families, everybody that was able to get out to get here. How much stress that had to be. And oh, by the way, you got to play a ball game against Cleveland, and they won. And to me, that's ultra impressive.
If you go to BuffaloBills.com, the official Buffalo Bills website, there's actually a cool article on there right now about everything that a lot of those guys had to go through. They had coaching staff members and employees driving all over, upstate New York, trying to pick guys up. Orchard Park, which is where Highmark Stadium is actually located. The town is actually located in Orchard Park, got 80 inches of snow.
Amazing.
From Thursday night to Saturday morning. And I mean, I can't imagine. And I live in Northwest Wisconsin. We get snow here.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. 80 inches of snow. You think about that. I mean, that's almost 7 feet. And said that in Erie County, depending on where you were, what town you were, you could have got anywhere from 1 to 7 feet of snow.
It was so funny because I was driving my dad back up to Menominee, Marinette, Wisconsin.
Sure.
And we were going through Lower Michigan, and we got pounded. And we drove by Ithaca, and you could see the football field from the expressway. They had the snow blowers out and the shovels shoveling off the field for a Michigan semifinal football game for high school.
Sure.
And I thought of that, and I thought, okay, we got about 10 inches there. Multiply that by 7.
Yeah.
And I just
holy.
So my kudos to Buffalo. So, we talked about this a little bit off the air. They decided to go home Sunday night, and they're flying back tomorrow if what I've got is correct. So that quick turnaround, boy, you talk about weary travelers, man.
Yeah.
Again, that's going to be impressive for them to come and play on Thursday.
Playing on Thursday is such a weird deal anyway. I mean, it's such a kind of disruption in your normal routine. And we know that, professional athletes and people who get to that level of success are generally pretty routine oriented. Especially the coaching staff can be anal about that sometimes. But, we look at it and I suppose they probably wanted to try and keep it to as normal a Thursday schedule as they could. I mean, essentially, if they would have played on the road, if this game hadn't been a Buffalo home game and they would have been playing in Cleveland, it would have been about the same flight back in terms of time. Right. And then you'd be turning around anyway. Just the cool thing is that they're, they were already there in the visitor locker room. It'll be like their home locker room for 2 weeks in a row. So, it is definitely different though. Kind of a weird disruptive time. I don't know if I would have necessarily wanted to do the whole turnaround and fly back thing, but I suppose they've gone through Thursday games. Most of those guys have gone through Thursday games before. So I guess the closer they can keep it to a regular schedule, probably the better, especially with everything like they've got going on at home right now and they're dealing with the snow. So,
well, I put up the quarter 4 page up on our screen here for those of you that are watching. Obviously, again, we like to do the quarter 4 breakdown of the Lions each week here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the first portion of our show. We break down some features as far as we call maybe hot props and whatnot, the hottest props. But Chase, according to quarter 4, Buffalo is a 12-point favorite on the road. And I know a lot of the lines, a lot of the other places are 9 to 9.5. I think it bumped up on DraftKings to 9.5. Plus 12, I'm going with just with Detroit here, and I'm just using their number. Plus 12 and the over-under 51. If you do a prop bet on that, or a two-team parlay or two-way parlay, you're looking at plus 180. And you and I talked a couple of weeks ago when they were playing the Bears and couldn't believe that Detroit, it was a pick'em game. Detroit's first win on the road. I think Buffalo's great. I'm not taking anything away from them. I just, extolled their virtues. But my goodness, 12 points. That is a lot to spot a team on the road, man. I don't know.
Especially a team that's coming off a win by 13 over a winning team.
Yeah.
I mean, Detroit just got off a 13-point win. I mean, it's a little bit of a shocking line to me. I mean, 12 points is a big line. I don't care who's played. If you want to put Philadelphia up against Houston or whomever, that's a big line. And I've got that. I'm a little leery of that. I do agree with having a little bit higher, especially for this season. 51's a little bit of a higher over under, because these are two teams that we know can score some points.
Yes.
So, and at least from a fantasy standpoint, I mean, everything is there for the Bills to be able to score a ton, to be dead on. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade in Detroit. But from a fantasy standpoint, they give up a ton of points to opposing players. Right. We're talking, yardage, catches, first downs, touchdowns, all of that. And in real life too, I mean, they have not been a overly, high ranked defense, but the Bills have a reputation for having a good defense, and they do have a good defense, but the front of their front four hasn't been able to generate as much of a pass rush lately as they had early in the season. Early in the season, they were the top ranked team in terms of pressure rate. That's fallen off. I think they're down to around 6th or so right now for pressure rate. So I mean, this is a Bills team that can be had with the right mixture, with the right play calling. And we've seen what Jamal Williams can do as a pounder. I think you correct me if I'm wrong, it looks to me like Detroit has started to maybe look at their two-headed backfield like a runner and a pass catcher, and occasionally mix the two, which is perfect because DeAndre Swift, you want him in space. He can run between the tackles, but his strength is in space and being shifty. Whereas Jamal Williams is better as a battering ram and up the middle, I think, although he's capable of catching.
What's funny is that two-headed monster theme. I don't think DeAndre Swift likes that because they're taking touchdowns away from him. And he kind of hinted in the media that he's not happy. But hey, and I give Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley, I believe, is assistant coach or whatever, credit for kind of keeping that somewhat tame, because Williams is leading or he's tied for the lead in the NFL with 12 touchdowns. And he's averaging about 60 yards a game. He's on my fantasy team, and he's got me in first place, thank goodness. So, I love it. My first fantasy question to you is, and I got it up on the screen, is Dawson Knox. The over-under on him is 40.5. I believe when I looked at it where I do my sports betting, it's -115 either way. Mm-hmm. I tend to go over on this one. Give me your thoughts on that, on Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox is a frustrating player, and maybe it's frustrating how they use him maybe in the offense. He blew out last year and had his big coming out party a year ago, but all of his fantasy points were very touchdown dependent. From a fantasy standpoint, from a scoring standpoint, he is very touchdown dependent. Okay. He's right now, I have him ranked as tight end 9 this week. I do have him ranked pretty highly. Okay. But he's only the tight end 20 on the season for scoring in a PPR format, because he doesn't catch a ton of balls. He doesn't get a ton of looks, and he doesn't catch a ton of balls. And the problem with that is that this year, for a guy that's so touchdown dependent from a fantasy standpoint, he's not getting a ton of red zone looks. So for a guy who needs to score, especially a position that needs to get red zone looks to score, he's not seen enough this year. However, now you look at the matchup, and the Lions give up the 4th most points to opposing tight ends. So it is a good matchup for him if they want to give him the ball. The biggest thing about that is, though, they've got everybody else they can spread that ball around to. They've got Gabriel Davis, they've got Stephon Diggs, even Isaiah McKenzie is good. They've still got even Khalil Shakir is a playmaker when he's on the field. They're rookie. Plus, they've got their own kind of two-headed running back monster right now. Mm-hmm. And it could be even 3 if they wanted to add Nyheim Hines, who they made the trade for at the deadline. But, 40 is actually a really tough call in terms of yardage.
Sounds like that'd be one you'd stay away from then, right?
It's one that I personally would want to stay away from, because I'm just not sure he's going to get enough looks, and he's not necessarily a field stretcher. If it was a touchdown over under, I'd say, he might be a good bet to score a touchdown right now.
I think the over under, I got it on the wrong screen for that, but I want to say it's .08 or 0.8. So I would tend to go that he may score a touchdown.
Now
Detroit does tend to give up touchdowns to tight ends. So
he hasn't scored in the last month. He hasn't scored since the Green Bay game, and he has gone over 50 the last 2 weeks for yardage. So maybe they're starting, maybe if this uptick in targets the last 2 weeks or so, if that carries through, then he's got a real good shot at it because it's a good matchup.
Okay.
I don't know that I'd want to be putting a ton down on that because he just does not get a ton of looks.
Fair enough. Next one, I have an interesting question for you. I know you're more into the fantasy sports and not really in sports betting maybe, but for quarter 4, you see right there on the screen, Stephon Diggs, they've got him right at 100 yards, 99. As a bettor, I tend to get a little worried about that. Is such a tough number sometimes to bet over under on. I would probably stay away from it. I think he's a decent bet to possibly get that, but I'm just looking at his numbers just right here. If you bet him over, it's over. It's plus 105, which means you bet 100 to get 105 back.
Yep.
Under is minus 135. So that's telling me that the sharps are thinking Detroit's going to hold him to possibly about 70. What would be your feel on how do you think he's going to do Thursday against the Lions?
Well, he's averaging almost exactly 100 points a game, which is why that line is so dead ass on. Because he's played 10 games.
It scares me though to make a bet on that.
He's got 1,033 yards.
Wow!
So he's basically averaging 103 yards.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, and 10 targets a game. He's averaging about 7, almost 8 catches a game. If he gets 8 catches in this game, he's probably a pretty good bet to go over 100 because again, Detroit gives up a lot of points, fantasy points wise, to opposing wide receivers, and big part of wide receivers is their yardage total. But the only thing, the thing that would shy me away from that, and the reason that they're shying on the under, the sharps are shying on the under, is if this game goes the way that the line says it will, and the Bills are up big, they may not be throwing a whole ton to Stephon Diggs, especially in the second half. He may see a bunch of looks in the first half and then tail off toward the end. That being said, again, the frustrating thing from a Bills standpoint, if you've got Bills on your roster, especially Devin Singletary, is that the Bills don't necessarily go into clock killing, pound the rock mode when they're up. So they may continue to throw, but I just don't know that Diggs sees a ton of looks in the second half if this game goes Buffalo's way early. Again, that's why those people have the job that they do. 99 point, over under of 99.1. Does it say 99.1?
99. I got 99.1. Yep.
And like I said, he's averaging 103.3 on the season. He's played 10 games. He's hit 100 yards in 6 of them.
Okay, I want to go to the Detroit side, and I want to bring up Amon-Ra St. Brown. His right now is 80.4. Now, he's pretty much the go-to guy for Detroit when he's healthy, obviously. Yep. He's Goff's favorite receiver, and he's getting more targets, especially now that Hawkinson is gone, and the other guys, the other tight ends have the case of the drops. But I know Detroit wants to try to pound the rock, like you said. But I tend to like this. I tend to like 80 because here's why. I think if Detroit gets behind, which, and I personally think it's going to go over this game myself.
It would not shock me at all. It would not shock me at all.
I like that 80. Now I like the over on that one. Again, this is another one. Just the sharps don't agree with me on this one. It's the same. It's if you take 80, it's plus 105. If you go under, it's minus 135. And I'm kind of surprised by that, but I'm going to take the over on this one. If I do make my prop bet on that one, I just think that he's going to get the targets, even, again, because I think they may be behind in this game.
Right.
And I think he's going to get 8 to 10 targets.
Right. I think so too. I agree with you there in terms of the target load. I think he gets a ton of targets, and as good as the Buffalo defense is and as good as Buffalo is, they do give up a bunch of points to opposing wide receivers. They're not necessarily a team that locks it down. Now you can say, okay, is that because they're always beating teams and so teams are always throwing on them, or is it because they're a little bit vulnerable there? It's a good team against the pass. The Bills are, I mean, they're first in interceptions they lead the league in interceptions. They're second in the league in passes defended. They've got the fifth fewest points against them. They're giving up under 17 points a game, and they've given up the 10th fewest yards. I mean, this is a team that has a good defense, but if you're going to have to be throwing all the time and you're in Detroit, you're going to be throwing for Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially now that we're in the post-Hawkinson era.
Yep.
So they don't have that outlet to go to anymore.
Right.
And with how banged up certain guys have been, Reynolds and some of them, he's your go-to guy, and he should be your go-to guy.
Okay.
He has proven this year that last year was no fluke. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'd be comfortable. I would be more comfortable going the over on Amon-Ra St. Brown's yardage than I would be going the over on Diggs' yardage.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's scary. We're joined by Chase Thornton. He's our Buffalo Bills insider here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and he's also a fantasy football columnist for Belly Up Sports. Check it out, bellyupsports.com. All right, Chase, I'm going to give you my Captain Lou teaser pick for the Thursday Bills and Browns matchup, and this is kind of what I'm looking at right now. I'm going to take Detroit. Now, these are the lines according to quarter four. I'm going to take a 6-point teaser. I'm going to take Detroit plus 18.5 and over a 44.5. That will give you minus 125, which I know you're not going to get all your money back, but I think it's a pretty smart bet being at home. If you want to add Josh Allen, the quarter four says he's going to throw for about 255. If you take that and you say over, then it goes to plus 140. If you go under, it's plus 180. And if you can add Jared Goff at over 199 to add to that, and you're about plus 200. Of the quarterbacks, what would you be more comfortable with? Jared, well, actually, I want to give you an amendment to that one real quick. I know I'm confusing you, but Jared Goff at plus 245, like they said on quarter four, if you just take him, it's plus 300. With Detroit plus 18.5 and over 44.5. That to me, I tend to go that way because I think Detroit's going to be playing catch up. What do you think?
I think they're going to be playing catch up too. I think that the way they attack this team is through the air. I really think they have to. They're going to have to use Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're going to have to pass the ball out and get the ball out to DeAndre Swift. I'll tell you what. Josh Allen has not gone over that yardage very often lately. All right. He actually hasn't been he hasn't had to throw the ball a ton lately.
Right.
And again, like I said, I see this as he won't have to throw a ton. He's not going to have 45 pass attempts in this game. Jared Goff, on the other hand, Jared Goff's a little more mercurial. He's up and down, but for 200 yards, I think he's good for 200 yards.
Okay, then
for my money, I'm more comfortable. As much as I think that Bills might score in this game, yardage wise, I'm more comfortable with the Jared Goff number.
Okay, then I guess that I better make sure that I've got this right because I did goof this up. The teaser picks on the screen. The first two numbers are right, and what I did was if you're feeling frisky. You want to add Josh Allen over 254.5. It puts it up to 140.
Yep.
Now, if you add Jared Goff to that for a 4-play, then it only raises it to plus 195. But if you take Jared Goff at 240 or 254, that's when it gets to plus 310. So if you're feeling frisky, you want to put a sawbuck on it, you'll get 30 on top of that. So my bet would probably be with Jared Goff only, you're looking at plus 125. So I would probably do Jared Goff, Detroit plus 18.5 and the over at 44.5 then. That's kind of
I think that sounds like a pretty solid one right there.
All right. Okay, well, just a few more minutes and I'll let you go, and I really appreciate you coming on, Chase. Thanksgiving Day. Are you going to be how is your family set up? Are you going to watch the Lions game in Buffalo, then eat the dinner? Or are you going to eat and watch the Cowboys? Or are you going to talk your wife and family into letting you watch all 3 games? How's your day looking?
I'll probably end up being able to have all 3 on throughout the day.
Nice.
My wife's a physician. She's a family medicine doctor. So, and she's on call actually over
Okay.
Thanksgiving weekend. So we won't be going anywhere. We'll be right here at home. We're having her family, her parents and her brother and sister and their families over. So it'll be all right here in the house. Her dad's along the same lines as me. He wants to watch the football game all day too. So we'll have, we'll have that pull in the corner for me. But yeah, we'll probably be eating midway through the Lions game. We'll have them on definitely. And then, yeah, it'll flow from there right into the traditional Cowboy game. So
there you go. We've got my stepdaughter and her husband bought a house down in Canton outside of Detroit, and they're hosting 11 of us, and they turned their basement into a little mini theater. So
there we go.
We're going to be camped out there for the Lions game. Dinner will be at about 4:00. And so we'll have full bellies to watch a little bit of the Cowboys game. So yeah, that's looking forward to that. What's your favorite part of Thanksgiving? What's your favorite part of the meal?
Favorite part of the meal? My wife's is anything with potatoes. She's a big potato fan. I'm a meat eater, so whether you're having ham, whether you're having turkey, whether you're having whatever, I'm in on the meat for it. Right. So yeah, that's where I go with it.
All right. Well, Chase, I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking time out on short notice for this Thanksgiving Day game.
Not a problem.
Enjoy the games, man. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot from you. Check him out. That's Chase Thornton. He's our fantasy football expert on bellyupsports.com and also our Buffalo Bills insider. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend. And again, thanks for coming on tonight.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody watching as well. Thanks a lot, Captain Lou.
All right, you bet. That's Chase Thornton joining us here tonight. And we are live here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza here on the Captain Lou Sports Network here on this Tuesday, November the 22nd, 2022. And having a ball here. It's Turkey Day coming up. 3 games. We got Buffalo coming into Detroit. Buffalo, according to Quarter Floor, is a 12-point favorite. I'll put my parlays and my teaser bet back on at the end of the show. We also got Dallas is an 8-point favorite at home against the New York Giants. And I believe the New England Patriots are just a 1.5-point underdog against Minnesota at Minnesota. So, hey, Tyler Eschett is going to join us here in a few minutes, and we are going to talk Michigan and Ohio State. It is the week here, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we know what that means. It's Michigan and it's Ohio State. The top 4 are still the same. It's Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan, and also it is TCU at 4. And without any further ado, let's bring Tyler in. Tyler, hey, thanks for coming on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. How are you, my friend?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine. We want to talk some college football. I just mentioned the top 4 have been announced. I'm sure you heard. It's those are the same: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. LSU is 5. Were you surprised by that at all?
I was kind of surprised at that. I thought that this would have been the time for the playoff committee to jump USC over LSU, but I just feel like LSU overall still has a better resume, especially with a top 10 victory at home against Alabama, who's at number 7. They still have, an opportunity to add to that resume in the SEC championship if they were to win against the Georgia Bulldogs. But ultimately, it's going to play itself out. But definitely excited to see the playoff rankings unveiled tonight.
So let's get right to the big game. It's Michigan and it's Ohio State. Obviously, the biggest question in Ann Arbor is Blake Corum going to be healthy? And the second question, that Michigan game against Illinois, and McCarthy hasn't looked that solid the last couple of weeks. Obviously, that's the number one question: is Corum going to stay healthy? I know he's going to probably try to make it a go on Saturday.
Yeah, he's got to. I mean, if Michigan wants to win this game, Blake Corum has to be healthy and 100%. I don't know if he's going to be 100%. He got nicked up against Illinois, and Michigan's offense, even without him, had to struggle. They were without Edwards, their backup running back as well, so they pretty much had to go to the third string. So we saw last year they had, success against, the Ohio State run defense. Michigan controlled the line. And that was the reason why, that game was so dominant.
Yeah.
So if Michigan can't do that, then it might favor the Buckeyes in this matchup.
And the receivers, I think, have been a little, I don't want to say they're a disappointment. I just think the timing's been off with McCarthy, although why am I drawing a blank on him? He dropped that pass in the end zone against Illinois. Andrel Anthony dropped that pass. They got to get on track too. Or else they are going to get their doors blown off. But on the Ohio State end, I think this could be CJ Stroud. And this is just me. Yeah, I'm sure he's hearing the whispers that Caleb Williams is taking over the lead for the Heisman. He might, from an individual standpoint, want to try to put on a little bit of a show against Michigan to get that Heisman performance to maybe put him over the top. Do you think I'm crazy in that? And what do you think about CJ Stroud and the game he may have against Michigan?
I don't think that's crazy at all because, the Heisman Trophy, usually there's that one guy that sets himself apart. I thought that guy was going to be Hendon Hooker. Now that he's out for the season, didn't have a good game against Georgia and pretty much everyone wrote them off. Same thing for Stroud. He had that one game, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds against Northwestern where he only threw for 79 yards. So I think that if CJ Stroud puts on a good game, then he's definitely going to be in New York and win the Heisman Trophy. I know that, he hasn't had, the season that he's won. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been out for, the majority of this. But, yeah, I think for Ohio State and for Heisman hopes of CJ Stroud, if he throws for like over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns at least, I would definitely have to give him the Heisman.
So let me ask you this. Now, you saw the rankings are out, and it's kind of fun to analyze this because, we can sit back here and look at it. Michigan and Ohio State are playing. The loser obviously is not going to the championship game. The winner's going to play, I don't know, probably Iowa or Purdue, whoever. Now, I know there's scenarios, but if Michigan were to lose and USC were to lose, do you think Michigan could still maybe sneak in with one loss?
They would also need TCU to lose as well. I feel like if TCU, they probably should have lost this past weekend. These top teams got a scare, including Michigan. But I feel like they have to root for, TCU to lose, and also they need LSU to lose as well. You got to be rooting for the Georgia Bulldogs. You pretty much want chalk over there, but you also want chaos out west. USC plays Notre Dame this weekend, so they could lose there, or they could lose in the Pac-12 championship against an Oregon. But, yeah, they had to root for chaos. But I feel like, the loser has to lose, blown out by like 10-plus points like the game it was last year. It has to be a close game, has to be at the buzzer, whether that's lose on the last play in regulation, like on a field goal or in overtime. You just can't get blown out.
So here's a scenario that I'm thinking of. Let's say Michigan loses like in 2006. They lost 42-39 when they were undefeated, or the other way around. Whatever team loses, it's a close game. Georgia wins, like you said, against LSU. TCU still wins. They win out. They're going to get a spot. I think that if USC loses and even if TCU wins, that would still, and Georgia wins, I think Michigan could slide in. But here's my worry on this, okay? What about Alabama? I know they got 2 losses. One of them was in overtime, on a last-second field goal. The other one was on a 2-point play. They're lurking there. They scare the hell out of me, Tyler. They've got the resume and they've got the hearts of a lot of people. And, that's one that I won't believe they're out of the playoff until I see the 4 teams in, man.
Yeah, they definitely have the name brand as well. Alabama, the playoff committee loves whenever they're in, but I just don't see it. They're facing a 5-6 Auburn team this weekend, and they can't really build on their resume anymore. I feel like Clemson still has a shot. I feel like no one's really talking about them anymore. They're sitting at number 8. I feel like they're going to jump Alabama, if they beat North Carolina and South Carolina. They have to take care of business because they're a very hot team, especially the way that Spencer Rattler has been playing. But I feel like Alabama doesn't have a shot at the college football playoff. They're going to be 2 losses, not even going to be in the SEC championship. So I feel like there's really no discussion for Alabama being in the playoff.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I hope you're right. I don't know why I'm right too. I'm paranoid about that. They're lurking there, and they've got ESPN, touting all this, the SEC and whatnot. But yeah, it was a crazy game with Tennessee and South Carolina. Spencer Rattler, you mentioned him. Wow, 6 touchdown passes. He kind of, I don't know, he hasn't had a great season, and he transferred from Oklahoma. I'm happy for the kid, though. I'm not a Tennessee fan. Anybody who knows me knows that. Didn't break my heart to see them lose. But, man, did he put on a performance against the Volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee was going into that game. Vegas had them as a 22.5-point favorite, and I put that in our parlay that we do for our show, and that didn't work. But I was fine with it. I mean, the story in that game was Hendon Hooker going down with an injury. You just knew that it was going to be an ACL injury, so that really sucks for Tennessee. And now they have to face off against a Vanderbilt team that's going to be fighting for their postseason lives. They're 5-6 as well. They're going to be playing for something, and the mindset that Tennessee is going to be like, what do you have to play for? I mean, you still have the New Year's Six bowl game on the table now that they're number 10, but is that really what you wanted to play for? I mean, you were number 1, a couple of weeks ago, and then Georgia runs you over. But South Carolina, man, what a show in that one. Was 63 points. I did not see that coming at all. I mean, but Spencer Rattler put it on. Josh Vann had a good game as well. The receivers was just clicking. But if Spencer Rattler can play like that for a full season, then watch out for South Carolina next year.
Well, I put up on the screen the lines for the game. This isn't necessarily my parlay bet, but here are the lines as of right now. Michigan is a 7.5-point dog down at in Columbus, and the over/under is 57. So much is going to be dependent on how much Blake Corum plays and how much McCarthy's going to have to throw the ball. The 7.5, I think, is about right. What worries me as a Michigan fan is, the beating that Ohio State took last year, and CJ Stroud remembers that.
Yeah.
And I'm really worried about that. I think Ohio State is just, boy, they're going to be ready. Not that Michigan's not going to be ready, but boy, I'm worried as a Michigan fan going down to Columbus. I think that line sounds about right.
Yeah, that line sounds about right as me. Vegas usually gives 3-point to the home favorite, and then they add on 4 points. For the over/under, I mean, I feel like last year's game hit the over tremendously, but I feel like this is going to be more of a defensive battle. These two teams rely heavily on the running game, and both teams have been struggling in the past, especially with J.J. McCarthy. I mean, he had multiple times to end that game, and he missed his tight ends, in the end zone. He could have put, Michigan up in that game. They were, lucky to escape in that game against Illinois. Same with TCU. But I feel like, the revenge factor is always going to be something in this game. Ohio State in the past decade has dominated this series, but Michigan was able to, to slay the dragon last year, get into the playoff. But in my opinion, I think that Ohio State's going to win this game by 3 touchdowns, by 3 points. But okay. I would take Michigan plus 7.5. I think they keep it very close. I mean, this is a rivalry game. There's never a time that this game is going to be a blowout. But I would go with Ohio State win this one 27-24.
All right. So then it sounds like you would go for my Captain Lou teaser right here. I'm going to go with my 6-point teaser is going to be Ohio State minus 1.5 and under 63. You get just about even money on it. It's like minus 105. So you bet 100, you get 95 back on top of the 100 you bet. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be under, if anything. And I just think Michigan I think Ohio State's defense is just going to be a little too much. I think they'll be able to solve it. Michigan's offensive line is playing great, but especially if they don't have Corum, that's going to be a lot to ask of McCarthy. And I'm with you. That's kind of my teaser bet for right there.
I like it. I might have to add that to my weekly parlay.
All right. So I know you got to get going. You got to get ready for your show coming up. That's why I appreciate you taking time out. Before you go, tell us a little bit about what you got going on tonight.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing our annual SEC talk. We just do the recapping, the week 12 of the SEC, and then we got a big rivalry week before the conference championship week. But we also talk about our top 4 games, so we'll have the Michigan-Ohio State game as well, do our picks, and have 3 other. So I think we have like Cincinnati, Tulane. We're going to be recapping the Civil War coming up as well, and then USC and Notre Dame. So it should be a lot of fun tonight. And as the college football season is almost gone. I mean, it feels like every year, like we're just waiting for week 1 to happen, and then the weeks go on, and quickly, like the season's almost over. But we're going to be enjoying every part of it.
So you're talking SEC. One last question about them. Is Lane Kiffin going to Auburn? Is that true?
I feel like that's a smoke screen. I mean,
okay.
I feel like a lot of Auburn fans are saying that that's like a greater job than Ole Miss.
Wow.
But to me, like right now, the programs, I feel like that would be a lateral move. I know that Auburn has more resources, but if Lane Kiffin, were to go somewhere, I could see him go to Nebraska. Maybe he goes to the Big Ten, but I think that he's content with Ole Miss. He's wearing a hoodie. He made a hoodie that transferred to the SIP. So, Lane Kiffin, he's always trying to put up a storm, but I don't see this one happen. I think that's just a smokescreen for someone else, because that's the same thing. LSU, we had a lot of rumors of Lincoln Riley going to LSU. You never heard about Brian Kelly going to LSU, and Kelly ends up going, being the head coach for the Fighting Tigers.
Well, I think you're going to love Brian Kelly in a couple of years. He'll get you a national championship before he leaves LSU. I'm a CMU grad, so I got a soft spot for Brian Kelly. He did wonders at Central Michigan when he was here.
Yeah, I already love him. I mean, I did not think that we would be where we were at, especially after that week 1 loss against Florida State and then getting drubbed by Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler, thanks for joining us tonight. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and good luck with your show tonight. Love to have you on again sometime. And again, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. Tyler Eschett joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, and also on the Belly Up Network of podcasts as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll run down again what we're going to do here for Thanksgiving. And as far as our games, and talk about one more time the game, it's Michigan and Ohio State. But first, take a listen to this here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza.
Welcome to Fresh Ball Fall. It's the season of pumpkin spice and making sure your crotch looks nice. That means sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. That's right, today's show is brought to you by Manscaped, a company here to make sure that your foliage isn't the only thing shedding its excess leaves. Heck, even Mother Nature knows it's time to lose the excess clutter for fall. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Whether you're brand new or already with us at Manscaped, you could use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Platinum Package 4.0. This glorious package, you can align your entire hygiene routine all in one swoop. Inside the 10-part Platinum Package is everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to platinum. You can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminum-free Ultra Premium Deodorant. And don't worry, it's not pumpkin spice, it's a cologne-quality fragrance. Get the Platinum Package this fall. These products are guaranteed to be hits for your dangly bits. Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, by the way. You can see all of our previous shows, including the ACHA Power Play podcast, which we will have another episode next Tuesday night. And then the Captain Lou Extravaganza will be on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So kind of some programming notes for you for next week. as we'll be back in full force with 2 shows next week again. Tuesday night, the ACHA Power Play will have a complete list of guests, some coaches on the show as they get on. We are getting on the road to Boston in full force as it's going to be March 16th through the 21st for all 5 divisions of the ACHA with their national tournament. And also on Wednesday, we will have another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We'll have another Q4 breakdown of the Lions' next opponent. And we'll see if we can get a couple of special guests on as well for that. So we invite you to be a part of the show next week as well. Thanksgiving coming up Thursday. Boy, I tell you what, it's my favorite holiday. Not because of the Lions, although that's been something that, obviously me along with millions upon millions of people have watched the Lions play throughout the years. It's always been something special for us, family getting together after the game, watching it. I've been to, I'm trying to think, I think I've been to 3 Lions games on Thanksgiving. 1975 was my first one. I know that's a long time ago, but it's hard for me to forget. We drove, Munising's up on Lake Superior, for those of you that aren't familiar with Michigan. We drove down to Pontiac and stayed the night. It was a huge snowstorm, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And I can't remember how long it took us, 9 hours, 10 hours to get to Pontiac. We get to the game. There was so much snow on that roof. It was the first year of the Pontiac Silverdome. The first year of it, and the roof leaked. And it happened to leak right on our seats. You couldn't ask, what the heck, and so we were fortunate enough, the ushers gave us their seats. We had end zone seats, ended up being. Lions, of course, lost 20-0 to the Los Angeles Rams, but I can never forget that game. And I was 10 years old, 5th grade, if I remember right. But I did get to see a Lions win on Thanksgiving in 1997 against the Chicago Bears. Barry Sanders had a day. I think he had like 180 yards or whatever it was, 3 touchdowns. Back when Detroit was decent, I think they made the playoffs that year. They got beat, but they made the playoffs. And so that was a fun game. Me and my brother went, and a friend of mine, Buzz Johnson, we went to the game. It was at the Pontiac Silverdome. Haven't been to a Lions game at Ford Field yet on Thanksgiving, but who knows, maybe in a couple of years or something we'll do that. But those are kind of my Thanksgiving memories. Who can forget, though, the Lions have had some weird games, some crazy finishes. How about 1980 when they played the Bears? Everybody probably knows that one, the overtime game where Detroit was ahead 17-3 going into the end of the third quarter, gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And then Chicago won the toss, took the kick, ran it back for a touchdown before people could even sit down in their seats for overtime. That was the year the Lions started out 4-0 with Billy Sims and couldn't win the division. So just some Thanksgiving memories, though. All right, so as we wrap up the show tonight, just kind of want to thank again Chase Thornton, our Buffalo Bills insider, for joining us. He's our Buffalo Bills insider for Belly Up Sports. Also one of our fantasy sports columnists for bellyupsports.com. Check out the website. Check out his writings. Very informative. He'll help you make some money on your fantasy sports teams, fantasy football teams. It's week number 11 for fantasy football. Or I'm sorry, week number 12. So if you're like me, you've got 3 weeks left before the playoffs start. Hopefully you're in first place or darn close. And check out his column for the keepers, for some waiver wire additions this late in the year. Some people you may not think of that might be able to produce for you. Check him out. That's Chase Thornton, our fantasy football columnist, and he's a special addition. Great content here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza when we're doing our Q4 Lions breakdown. So, again, as we take a look at the Lions games, if you go to Q4 and look, Detroit is plus 12. A lot of the places have them at plus 9.5 to plus 10. As the predictors, even against the spread, have Buffalo as an 89% favorite. But 12 points is a lot. So what I did was I went with my Captain Lou teasers based on the Q4 numbers. You can get Detroit if you take a 6-point teaser. Detroit then is plus 18.5 at home, over 44.5 for the over-under. That's minus 125. It's not bad odds. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty damn good money in my opinion. It's almost as sure of a sure bet as you can get. I think Detroit will come within 18.5. Do I think they're going to win? I don't know. I'm probably going to say no because they're on a 3-game winning streak. And I've said they're going to lose each time. So I'm going to keep it going just so that maybe they'll win. If Detroit can win outright, they get to 5-6. And the schedule gets a lot lighter for them afterwards. They've got something to play for. You can scoff all you want, but the Lions are 5-6. They got the Jets, who in the hell knows who their quarterback's going to be. They got the Bears at home, and we don't know how well Justin Fields is going to be doing. I mean, he's banged up. You got the Vikings. Yeah, they're good, but Detroit should have beat them in Minnesota, and I know that's sitting in the back of their head. They win those 3 games. That would get them to 8 wins if they beat Buffalo. They got to go to Green Bay. I never think they'll win in Green Bay, especially the last game of the year. So, and I think I'm trying to remember who else they have. But if they can get this win on Thursday, then you got to start thinking, maybe, just maybe. I think they got Jacksonville yet. That's a winnable game. I'm telling you, don't count us out yet. I know it drives my wife crazy when I say, we're playoffs yet. She'd be like, oh my God. But take a look at that teaser right there on the screen. If you add Josh Allen over 254.5, it's plus 140. And if you add Jared Goff to make it a 4-pick parlay, then it's plus 195. But if you bump up Jared Goff to plus 250, think you can go over that, it's plus 310. So there you go. Just something to think about, with some of the picks right there. And then again, here's some of the over-unders we talked about. Stephon Diggs, 99.5 yards. If you think you can go over that, that's about his average. It's over. If you go over, you get plus 105. Under is minus 135. Same with Amon-Ra St. Brown, except his over-under is 80 yards. If he goes over that, it's plus 105. Under is minus 135. So there you go. That's the Lions. Quickly on the other games on Thanksgiving, the New York Giants go to Dallas after laying an egg against our Detroit Lions. I think that that is they're an 8-point underdog on Q4, so about anywhere from 5.5 to 8. Dallas coming off that beatdown of Minnesota on the road. I like Dallas in this one. I don't know if they can cover 8 points, but I like Dallas to win that game. Then Minnesota is hosting New England. This is kind of an enigma game. First of all, it's Thursday night. I don't know how well Kirk Cousins is going to play when it's not a 1 o'clock game, but they got their asses kicked, literally, against Dallas. And they're only a 1.5 favorite. I would lay that 1.5 all day long. I'm taking the Vikings on this one. So I'm going to take a money line parlay of Buffalo, Dallas, and the Giants, and the Vikings. Maybe make a little bit of coin on that. And finally, it's the week, as we like to say. We talked about it with Tyler Aschett. Want to thank him for joining us. Join him at the top of the hour for his SEC talk. As we mentioned, Michigan is a 7.5-point underdog on the road against Ohio State. The over-under on that one is 57. I tend to lean on the under on that one. I love my blue. You know that. You see the pictures behind me. It's a tough task, especially if Blake Corum is not playing. If he's not playing, it's really going to be tough. Ohio State, I just think they're a little bit better. I really do. I think they're a step better. I hope Michigan goes down there and kicks their ass. With my heart says yes, but my head says no. 7.5 is a lot of points. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going with my teaser bet. Ohio State minus 1.5 and under 63. That'll get you just about even money. That's my safe bet right there. So, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. What's your favorite part of Thanksgiving? The meal? To me, it's got to be the turkey. Give me the turkey and the gravy, baby, and the cranberries. And mashed potatoes. I'm a happy camper. Throw me a bun, maybe. That's good. We're going to have a lot of fun with my family sitting around watching the game Thursday afternoon. My son's going to be with me, and that's the best part of it. Can't wait. Well, hey, I hope you enjoy the Thanksgiving Day games, and I hope you enjoy the football games this weekend. You got USC and Notre Dame. That's a big game for USC to try to get their playoff hopes alive, keep them alive. Alabama, Auburn, I don't care what the records are. That's going to be a good game. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan State, Penn State. Michigan State's got to win to be bowl eligible. I don't know if they're going to do that after what they did in that collapse against Indiana at home. We'll wait and see on that. Chances of Michigan and Ohio State making it, even with one team losing on Saturday, I think there's a good chance. But like Tyler mentioned, LSU's got to lose to Georgia in 10 days at the championship game for the SEC. USC is going to have to lose one, or TCU has to lose. If that happens, I think they're both in. One can only hope. All right, well, enjoy the games this weekend. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live on the Captain Lou Sports Network and, of course, powered up by the Belly Up network of podcasts. Check them out. Check out our website, bellyupsports.com. We've got a complete listing of all of our podcasts and all of our shows. And also check out the writings. We have just an incredible array of writers of all the sports, from the World Cup to NHL to women's hockey to the four major NBA, MLB, you name it. If there's a sport out there, we write about it. That's at bellyupsports.com. All right, everybody, have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us again. Captain Lou saying, keep your heads up, keep your feet moving, keep your sticks down, and as always, keep your minds open. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week here on the Captain Lou Sports Network and the Captain Lou Extravaganza.